This is brutal, as the Devils' strong defense just took a major hit for the foreseeable future, but an opportunity arises. Devils forward group in the same news injury-wise, and an already spot they are limited. Welcome in to Devils Digest. Glad you guys are here. So we just got some news on the Brett Pesce situation. Not great news. Update on Brett Pesce is that he's expected to miss at least a month. Yeah, that's not great. Look, you look at the Devils and you look at Brett Pesce. Obviously, the Devils very much so, they value Brett Pesce. That's why they gave him a 5-year contract. He was their biggest free agent signing that offseason, 2 off seasons ago. He's definitely going to be missed. He's someone you want in the lineup, somebody who you know can do top pairing minutes if you need him. He takes on the other team's best forwards. You need Brett Pesce in your lineup. He was somebody who was valuable to the Devils, somebody who's been good this year. He's someone the Devils could definitely use going forward. And with the type of start that New Jersey's had, and you've seen how the defense has played and how the goaltending has benefited from it, losing Brett Pesce for at least a month is definitely not the news that you wanted to hear. I know we saw he went down, we saw him leave. We were hoping probably it would be a little bit less time, but seeing a month or at least a month, that's not ideal. But with that happening, you got to move on. It is the NHL. You have to figure out what's going to work. And Seamus Casey recalled back to the New Jersey Devils from the AHL. Seamus Casey, look, another player who we thought maybe could make this lineup, especially with no Johnny Kovacevic to start the year. He also got injured, and he is now back. Was down in the AHL for a little bit. Now back with New Jersey, and he's expected to make an appearance tonight. Seamus Casey expected to be in the lineup for New Jersey tonight on that bottom pairing with Brenden Dillon. So, you look at it. You look at what the lineup is going to look like tonight for New Jersey in terms of defensemen. This is what it looked like at the morning skate. You had Dougie Hamilton with Luke Hughes, Simone Nemec with Jonas Siegenthaler, Seamus Casey with now Brenden Dillon. Now, taking out a player like a Brett Pesce and putting in Seamus Casey, you're going to get a different feel because obviously they're two different players. Seamus Casey, a little bit more on the offensive side, may have a little bit more skill to his game in terms of offense, maybe a little bit better, when you're in the transitional game or trying to create offense, maybe a little bit better there. Brett Pesce, obviously, somebody who's good defensively. You want him on the ice, that's why you gave him that contract. He's one of the better defensemen in the NHL. And when you can't go and replace a player like that, you can't go maybe get, that defense and maybe not get, that shutdown pair, you're going to maybe have to play a little bit of a different style. Seamus Casey is definitely a different style defenseman. You're not going to be able to replicate what Brett Pesce was. There's not too many players in the league who can replicate that. So if you're going to do that, you're putting in Seamus Casey and you're looking at maybe going a little bit more offensive. You probably don't want to be putting him out there in defensive zone draws. You don't want to have the puck in your own end. You never do, but a little bit more now. You don't want, you have some younger defensemen who maybe aren't as good defensively, who are still learning, who are going to make mistakes. You're going to have to play this game a little bit differently. That's just the type of player that Brett Pesce is. When he comes out of the lineup, you're at, maybe not where you want to be. That's something to say against Seamus Casey. Seamus Casey does bring stuff that, a guy like Brett Pesce maybe doesn't. Maybe he's a little bit more offensively, talented, a little bit more offensively skilled. You're going to be able to create more offense. So when Seamus Casey out there tonight, obviously getting his first start against Colorado tonight, you might see him, maybe in more offensive zone draws, maybe neutral zone, maybe see him be a little bit more offensive. You want to put him in those situations because you don't want to be putting, a defenseman first game back, off an injury, a little bit younger. You're not looking to make him do what Brett Pesce did. That's just not something you're going to ask out of him. You're not going to ask him to go, okay, go take on a top line of, Nathan MacKinnon, Martin Necas. That's just not what you're going to do. I know they are on the road, maybe a little bit harder to, kind of play the matchups, but you're going to probably try and keep them away from a matchup like that. So that does hurt New Jersey. You're not going to be able to go against Nathan MacKinnon and Martin Necas with, guys like Brett Pesce and Jonas Siegenthaler. That just isn't going to happen tonight. So maybe a tough game for him to be coming into. But there were some, more good news because Jacob Markstrom expected to make a start tonight. Look, that's going to help the defense. I know Jake Allen was great, and that's why, they signed him. That's why they wanted him as a backup goaltender this year, and he did his job. But he's not being asked to be the starter. You need your ace in net, and that is Jacob Markstrom. Jacob Markstrom, look, if you're going to have a player like Brett Pesce go down, you probably want your ace in net, especially against a team like Colorado, who's on a little bit of a skid right now, who you just played. You want your ace in net. Jacob Markstrom expected to make the start. That's really good for New Jersey. I know when I saw that injury, I wasn't overly optimistic. I didn't think it looked great. I didn't like his reaction with throwing the glove and, kind of just lying there. And then when he skated off the ice, it kind of felt like to me, it's like, okay, well, this might be a little bit. Wasn't super long. Jacob Markstrom back. Very optimistic about that. Like that. What I don't like as much, just more injuries. Cody Glass just put on injured reserve today. Lamico expected to be in the lineup tonight. Just looking at it, looking like he's going to be the third line center. And this was an issue going into the season. You knew that you struggled at center depth. And now you're seeing it. When you have an injury, you're going with, different players in your lineup, juggling the lines. This is probably not an ideal situation, probably even less ideal than what the Brett Pesce situation is. Going with, third line center, fourth line center, guys who maybe were kind of fighting for roster spots coming into the year. That's going to be your third, fourth line center. It's definitely not a situation where, you're feeling, comfortable, good, going up against a Colorado team who is on a skid right now. And you saw Cody Glass waiting to see when he will come back. That's, still up in the air. We don't have a complete update on that. We know he's on injured reserve, though, now. And him going on injured reserve definitely does open the door to how long is this going to be? What is the Devils' lineups going to look like? Look, they looked at it last game. And Dawson Mercer has been so good this year. That second line has been so good this year. They figured out, we need to get them back together. We'll take Callanan out of the lineup. We'll take, put Lamico on the third line. We need to get Dawson Mercer back here on that second line. And that's not because anything like, Dawson Mercer's played bad. No, it's more so Dawson Mercer's played so well at that second line. They want to have that advantage. They want to have that second line together. And the way they can get that second line together, they're saying, we'll be a little bit weaker in our third and fourth line center if we can have that second line. And the idea of that I like. I always say, depth is important, but your stars are what wins games. You need your stars to win games. You need your stars together. Devils, look, they looked at it too. Sheldon Keefe went, that second line, it worked really well. It gave us an advantage over other teams. They created more. They didn't let up a ton of opportunities. Maybe Timo Meier will benefit from this. Nico Hischier, obviously, one of the better defensive centers in the NHL. So I think all the players around him do benefit when playing with him. But Devils go back to that. They're going to get their second line back together tonight in Colorado. Give me a final score prediction. Final score for the game in Colorado tonight. Devils on an 8-game win streak, looking to make it 9 tonight. First in the NHL. So let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys all really soon.